Moving on to our next session, transformation in the new brave, new digital world. Moderating this session, we have Ms. Gunjan Gupta, Director, Technology, Barclays. Gunjan has close to 20 years of experience in the areas of data, analytics, and technology across the BFSI industries across US, Europe, and the APAC region. She is passionate about data and technology and ensuring they make tangible impact to the company's bottom line. Joining them, we have Ms. Marshniel Singh, Head Process Transformation and Design, Innovation, Societe Generale Global Solutions Center. Marshniel has over 17 years of successful track record in the financial services and consulting practice across investment banking, corporate finance, change management, project management, and more, providing thought leadership in delivery of cost-effective, high-performance solutions. Joining them, we have Ms. Bhargavi Sunkara, Head Corporate Technology, BNY Mellon, India. Bhargavi heads Asset Servicing Technology in India. Bhargavi has 26 years of experience championing the development and design of high availability systems with key strengths that lie in emerging technology. Joining them, we have Ms. Vidya Laxman, Technology Director, Tesco. Vidya spearheads Tesco's constant endeavor to stay ahead of the retail technology solutions curve and is both on the Tesco Bangalore board and the Tesco Bangalore CSR board. Joining them, we have Ms. Poonam Vijay Thakkar, Mentor of Change, Niti Aayog, Government of India. Poonam has close to 2 decades of rich corporate experience in marketing leadership with leader brands in India, a winner of 15 national and international marketing excellence and women leadership awards. Our next speaker is Ms. Ronita Mukerjee, Executive Director, Client Services, Landor and Fitch. Ronita describes herself as a curious optimist who is passionate about travel and insights. As a brand and design expert, she has worked across industries ranging from FMCG, consumer tech, hospitality, and pharmacy to manufacturing and IT services. I would now like to hand over to our moderator, Ms. Gunjan Gupta.
Thanks, Agya. Really honored and delighted to be here with such an esteemed group of women leaders. Before we get started with our discussion, we would like to express our deepest gratitude to all medical support and essential services staff who are carrying us through this very, very difficult time. In the next 50 minutes or so, we will try to do our bit by remaining optimistic, positive, and forward-looking as we talk about transformation in the brave new digital world. So in terms of the themes that we'll be exploring, it all starts with the customer. And that's where we need to start as well. So I'm going to invite Vidya Laxman to take the lead in this theme. And let's talk about how are you able to place customer delight at the center of all business strategies to create a unified customer experience from brick and mortar to web and mobile. Vidya, all yours.
Thanks, Gunjan. Very well said. I think we should thank our frontline workers across the board. Thank you so much. But coming back to your question, Gunjan, as you know, Tesco is a retailer. It's a grocery retailer. And we have huge market share in UK and mostly brick and mortar. And our P&M revenue at one point of time was 91% was from brick and mortar and 9% was from online. That is pre-COVID. And post-COVID, within 6 weeks, we were able to see our P&L grow on the online world to 14%. And then after a couple of weeks, it moved to 16%. So it's very, very relevant to talk about customers here, because at one point of time, we focused only on the store side, believing that those are the customers that we really care about. And when you talk about customers' delight, I read somewhere that customer experience is the new battlefield. And we do know what the outcome of customer delight is all about. You get really good, it translates to great customer satisfaction and loyalty. So now let's talk about the customer interactions across channels. When we talk across channels, initially it was just the web and brick and mortar, but now we don't have only those channels. We have so many on the social media. We have to take a look at everything, and how do we pivot around these channels and to give a great experience to our customers and their shopping behaviors. So first, most important thing is data, as you are from data. So knowledge of customers is the key here to form a very connected omni-channel journey across shops and digital channels. And also consumers expect a very consistent experience across all channels and platforms and in real time. They do not have patience. So without which the consumer, as you know, the impatience grows. And I've read data somewhere that if we invest on customer experience for over 3 years, it doubles. That's the kind of P&L revenue we're talking about. Now let me talk about Tesco as such. So Tesco in 2000, we were really doing, 2013, we were really doing well. We had a large market share. 2014 is when we saw our market share really dip, because our focus went away from the customers, and we realized that customers, the retail world got disrupted both by technology and also by technically savvy customers. So the experience and brand perceptions or price range or convenience alone was not what they were looking at. And currently what we have is, if you were to go to our Tesco application at one point, we had to go to different areas. If we had clothing, we have Tesco Mobile, we have Tesco Bank. There's not one unified experience across the board. So that's what we have worked on. What we have done is we had around 80 applications that if you had to go shopping on grocery online, you had to download an app. If you wanted Club Card, the loyalty points, you had to download. So that is what we started focusing on and worked on it. And as we also know, in the world of Netflix and Amazon, the consumer expectations around personalization has grown multifold. And consumers expect you to know their choices and preferences and help in recommendations more than ever before. So I believe that's why it is so important to keep customers in mind when you're doing anything. And I'm sure we're going to discuss more about what all we did to get to where we are currently.
Sure. Thanks, Vidya, for the perspective. I'm going to hand it over to Ronita. Ronita, you're from Landor and Fitch. And I'm sure even the audience and me, we are really keen to understand from you what are the global trends and technologies that you are noticing which are going into making these UIs and customer journeys.
Thank you, Gunjan. I really enjoyed listening to Vidya and Vanita's very unique perspectives, and you'll hear a lot of that reflecting in what I'm going to share. I want to start by sharing a slightly contrarian perspective. One of the things that we discuss with our clients and tell them is that the medium is rarely the hero. Very often there is this focus on digitizing your business and having a great customer experience. And what I want to say is digitization is not necessarily the end game. The end game really is a unique customer experience, happy, delighted clients who are going to be loyal to you. And how you deliver that, whether it's digital, whether it's offline, is what we should be really thinking about. So that's one point that I thought will be helpful to make. The medium is not the hero, the experience is the hero. So now let's talk about the experience and how can you really build and create an experience that's unique to your brand, something that you can own as a brand. We strongly believe in customer journey mapping and mapping the customer's journey from the start to the end. There is a lot of collaboration we do with psychologists to really understand what is it that stays in people's mind, what do they remember, and what do they probably forget. And one of the things through years of collaboration and studies that we have learned is it's usually the peaks of a journey that you remember. So for example, if you went to a concert or if you watched a movie, it's not like the entire movie you remember frame by frame. You don't remember the entire concert start to end. You remember the peaks, those key moments, and you remember the ending. Ending on a high note is very, very important. And I'll tell you why. For example, if you are checking into a hotel, if everything goes well, but they mess up your bill, that's the one thing you're going to remember and you will crib and complain about it. So finding the right peaks and finding the ending is very important. So when we start mapping a customer's journey, we think through every stage, every emotion, every touch point, but we also don't believe in creating a frictionless journey. You don't want to make sure that every moment is a peak, every moment is a high point. So there's a flow in the journey, and think of yourself as a director of a movie. You're really directing this journey and you're really guiding the consumer through this journey. So what are the points where you want to create those moments of delight? So just to give you an example, and Vidya will resonate because she spoke of personalization. There's a lot of D2C platforms that we have been creating for clients because many of our clients want to now go direct to consumer. You don't want those retailers coming in way. And we did something for Huggies. And Huggies, you'll only think of them as a diaper brand, very homogeneous and quite, cut and dry and boring. But the number one insight that we had was personalization and creating opportunities for gifting. And the entire D2C platform is focused on personalization, gifting, and delivery. So, and that's how, and that was really based on an insight. And then we took that forward to create a very delightful journey. So map the customer's journey, identify the peaks, make sure you have a great ending. Those are the few principles that I'd probably conclude when we talk about a customer journey.
Great. Thank you, Ronita. I remember and end with the bank, remember the peaks and the valleys, and design a holistic experience. That's really good insight. Marshniel, I'm going to call upon you. Is there anything you would like to add in the trends and best practices that you've experienced?
So I think the customer today, when we look at and customer journeys, like Ronita mentioned, very important, right? But what has changed is usually earlier the customer journeys used to be very predictable. It was a single lane, it was linear. Today, the biggest challenge is that the digital customer, if we try to do a journey map, it's so interconnected. There are so many challenges. Like Vidya was mentioning, the number of channels through which the touch points happen with an organization, with a business, to ensure that, yes, we are able to capture all these touch points, to ensure that we are able to, really map the customer journeys in a way which is diverse, non-linear and interconnected. We need to have a very holistic picture. We need to step outside, try to understand where all, what is the diversity that is getting included? What are the different ways the customer is getting, the range of touch points or the pathways or channels have to be taken into consideration. So I think it's become more complicated. And as much as we, to strike this balance between how much personalization and how much optimization, when we are transforming, we want to give customers, a very personalized experience. But that also means a cost to the optimization of the business. So how do we strike that balance? I think these are challenges which keep coming up when we are looking at improving our customer experiences.
Great, thanks, Marshniel. And I know we'll delve a little bit deeper into it with you as we move along. So we've spoken about the customer, changing expectations. We've talked about data as an enabler. We talked about designing holistic and compelling customer journeys and the best practices there. I think it's time to kind of focus a little bit to the back end. What is the technology? What are the frameworks that are actually enabling all of these? And I'm going to invite Bhargavi Sunkara to shed light on that.
Thank you, Gunjan. Actually, very passionate topic for me of customer experience, and I really loved how all of you guys tried to bring the story together. If you think of when initially Google first started, right, search relevancy was under question. You would have seen the top search by rank based on what percentage is it mapping. And it was more like a SQL query in the sense that if you didn't give exact syntax, like you might not get the right hit. I don't know, some of you might be very young to notice that. But over the years that has changed because they started building on the context. They started looking at your usage patterns. They started looking at a variety of things that help you to determine what do you mean when you say salt. Is it salt the movie, or is it the table salt, or is it something else, right? And that's where also we complain about data privacy. So there is a subtle game between how can you personalize a service and make it more customer centric without breaching into customer privacy. So I'm sure you would have heard now it is like GDPR and all these require that first you need to take that consent before you can start processing that data. It's not like opt out. By design, you are already opted out and you have to explicitly take permission to be able to use that data, right? Now, a lot of small time companies might not be necessarily adhering to those, but any GCFE kind of bank like we are, which is globally significant financial institution, then you are governed by those and you just can't, use customer data without customer permissions. And you have to be explicit about for what purpose are you going to use, right? So all of those come into picture. Now, of course, you might have heard a lot of the banks, including us at BNY Mellon, we are leveraging public cloud as well, which is right now we are using multiple cloud providers. And we have very strong partnership with Microsoft. And I'm currently building a data and analytics solution for our end customers with the Omni design pattern. Right, so I think Vidya touched upon Omni. For those of you who don't understand Omni, Omni stands for open, modular, networked, and integrated, right? So again, going back to what some of my previous speakers spoke about in terms of customer experience, it is not like just from the perspective of BNY Mellon's touch point with the customer, but in his journey where he uses, let's say, a Bloomberg data or some other data, that end-to-end experience where it becomes friction-free and it is effortless is what we aspire to do. And that can only happen when you have an architecture that's open enough, that's modular, and you can integrate with the networked partners, and you allow them to kind of have a variety of options and give that flexibility. As an example, if we have a role-based access control, we give the flexibility to the user where they can bring their own Azure credentials and we would validate it along with what our solution is. Or we could completely provision it for them if they don't want to get into that business, right? So that flexibility and that openness in the platform is required. So it's more about using the role-based access control or attribute-based access control with the authentication that can be either provided by the end user or we provision it for them. So again, like with the large volumes that we are dealing with, it is important to leverage some of the platforms that are already there from a cloud perspective and leverage some of those algorithms. And of course, security plays in a picture in kind of having that isolation levels and following data anonymization and stuff like that. But some of those also have a direct bearing on how much can you personalize for an end customer, right? So it's a balancing act there.
Thanks so much, Bhargavi, for the insight from a bank's perspective. So Vidya, I'm going to kind of call upon you. I wonder if your cloud journey has been a little bit easier considering you're not financial services.
Nothing is easy, nothing comes, there's no such thing as a free lunch, Gunjan. Having said that, I think Bhargavi touched upon exactly the same things as most of the organizations. It's agnostic to whether you're in financial or retail world. But we all have the same problem. If we are going to go, as you said, the question is how do we impact experiences both online and offline? See, one of the things is many a times we get confused with what UX is assumed and it's confused with the customer journey. And I thought Ronita did a great job of explaining what customer journey is all about. In the retail world, our customer journey starts from pre-purchase engagement. It follows through the purchase experience, and then it's also driven post-purchase experience. Nowadays, it's very, very important. Before, we used to only focus, our center was only about the purchase experience. I also want to touch upon what Marshniel said. She said something which is very, very relevant. Everything has a cost, personalization versus optimization. Now, Bhargavi spoke about open architecture. She spoke about a cloud journey. And also the reason why we are going about, as Ronita said, is giving one great consistent experience to customers. Technology, yes. But we have worked on it, and most of the organizations have been there for more than 100 years or 50 years, whatever. So which means that we do have a lot of systems which do require modernization. One is the green field where we're looking at moving towards it, but in the retail world, I do have a lot of legacy systems. It's not very easy because the way it was structured, the teams which were present before is that they were based on the businesses that were present. So we have a very supply chain, order fulfillment. All of these have been using data. They have very smart algorithms which have been written before. Now, of course, we're talking about machine learning. I know, having worked at in financial institutions before, I do know the kind of machine learning patterns which will be there, which has been, we might call it smart algorithms, etc. Now what we call artificial intelligence, etc., which will play a very important role. So coming back, is it very different? No, it's not very different. For us to give a great experience, to really say omni-channel experience, there is a cost involved. And that's what is the optimization that we can do. But other than that, other than technology, we also had to go through the business or process transformation, because we had to look at the different touch points and try to see how we optimize the process, and also the people transformation. Before, we used to interact directly with the business, and now we realize that the business are very tactical and they have their own P&L requirements. So we have the product management layer. It's not just engineering talking to them. So for a successful digital transformation and to have a great impact with respect to experiences for online and offline, I think technology, process, and people transformation, all of them have to go hand in hand to be successful. And we are still in this journey now.
Great, great. Thanks, Vidya. Thanks, Bhargavi. And Vidya, you've given us a really good segue into the next section. So we started with talking about the customer. We moved to the back end, talked about the technology enabling it. I think the third important theme is adopting and sustaining this digital advantage. Once we figured out what is it, once we figured out how do we enable it, it's important to know how do we sustain it. So I'm going to call upon Marshniel. And Marshniel, if you can tell us about the strategies that you may have used to analyze the unique customer experience issues facing global enterprises from a strategic, financial, organizational, and cultural standpoint. Marshniel, over to you.
Right. Thanks, Gunjan. See, at the end of all of this, right, or rather the central point of all of this is, while we are trying to do a lot of digital transformation to improve the customer experience, we need to have the ROI defined. How do we calculate the benefits? Because it is all a business. I mean, at the end, we have to be able to justify what we're trying to do. We want to bring in great customer experience. We lose, like, one in 3 customers we would lose from this factory journey and so on. But we do have to have the focus on the ROI. And how do we calculate that? When it comes to a customer experience, we need to define what are the real-time customer behaviors that are helping us with our metrics. Whether it is the revenue, sometimes it's the customer, lifetime value, the churn, the NPS, whatever we are defining, that has to be clear. Now, to be able to do this, to be able to ensure that, yes, we have defined an ROI which is worth, which is positive, it is going to give us the benefit on all the investments that we make. It makes it easier for us to be able to drive the transformation, push these cases, and create the impact that we want to do. The second part of it is being able to break the, data silos. We have a lot of data to leverage on this. And I know that, organizations around this to integrate all the customer data across different touch points and so on. But that makes a huge difference if we are able to, leverage on this information for cross-selling, upselling, and what our customers say we should invest more and so. The third part, I think, what requires, we have so many and opportunities. How do we identify these and how do we prioritize this? Now, we are looking at dealing with multiple internal customers. We are pulled in different directions. We have external customers. We have internally, we have business, we have IT. We have our own organizational strategies. How do we ensure that we are able to identify these, quantify the impact of the obstacles or the opportunities that we have? When we are able to get the the impact of these of the transformations that we are able to drive, we are able to prioritize better, right? Finally, I would say the last point is, which I was mentioning earlier, how do we deliver prioritization at scale? We need to identify, and when we are driving transformations, we have to look at what is it that we want to personalize, and what is the customer base, or what is the impact to our KPIs if we are trying to personalize things, and if we are trying to prioritize those. Who are we? This personalization that we are trying to do for a better customer.
Marshniel, you are breaking up a little in the middle.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Is it any better?
Yeah, seems to be better. The volume is fine. It's just that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, there was a glitch in the network. I'm sorry about that. I think.
No worries.
Sorry about that. So I was talking about, when the last aspect about delivering personalization at scale, and what should be personalized? How do we, what is the customer segment or behavior segment that we want to do the optimization and personalization for? And how do we ensure that the impact is something that it gets benefited or at a larger scale? So keeping in mind, these are some of the areas that we focus on when we are driving digital transformation to improve customer experience during our transformation journeys.
Great. Thanks, Marshniel. Really pertinent points about ROI and prioritization, the risk versus reward, the cost versus benefit. So great perspective. I'm going to call upon Poonam Thakkar now. So Poonam, curious to know, what have you noticed on ground through all your consulting assignments and advisory positions? Changes seen to date with digital adoption, including web, mobile, digital services. What do you expect will be imperative for future transformation? Keen to know about your learnings from the ground.
All right. Thank you, Gunjan. Lovely to have thoughts from everyone around, and I cannot resonate any more than all the perspectives that have come on the table. I'll start saying that I want to reflect a little bit on the adoption and the sustainability, given that we are aware that COVID recovery is going to be digital. There is no two things about it. Digital adoption capability makes employees, and I want to give that perspective, more valuable. And good digital adoption allows employees to be more creative. Now, when the mixture of these two happens, the successful digital adoption leads to customer retention, because you are able to deliver the creativity, the value, and the alignment coming from all factors together. When this happens, adoption of technology becomes the key for remaining competitive and, of course, moving ahead to sustainability. From here, I will stem to the point that customer experience in today's time, when it is about digital deliveries, has become the center focal point, the core of any business. And everything else is the satellite mode, or you can say revolving around the periphery. Now, why this example? Because when we talk about the core has to be very, very strong. That's when it will be able to hold all the peripheral, objects around it. This understanding in the corporate world today is very, very important, because I want to make a point that we still work in silos. And thanks to COVID, there are some things to talk about. Certain things that can be thanked to COVID is that we have been vaulted ahead. We have been, fast forwarded at least 5 years ahead to what digital transformation was supposed to be in all the businesses. And today, it is not just about consumer-facing business. It is your life, your groceries. Vidya, you're going to be happy. I've never used Nature's Basket or Big Basket more than what I have used in the last few weeks or few months. And it is very natural adoption from the consumer's point of view. But from the business point of view, I think it is a little forced ask as of now. But in this, and everybody is trying to be very, very innovative in the forced ask, but who will go ahead and master the art is, or possibly will be the businesses who will be able to adopt the real meaning of digital adoption from A to B to Z. And this also makes me talk about one very important point here. And that is also reflecting back to my journey in the various corporate houses. I'm talking about 2013. 2013, I was leading marketing for a very large setup and the first personal finance management, you can say, platform. Constantly, we wanted to churn out personalized advices in the finance to a customer from a customer experience point of view, because a digital medium is supposed to give those, inter points for somebody to manage their finances very well. And here, parallelly, the banks are constantly hammering you with the email saying that don't share your details or password with anyone. Now, there is a constant conflict between personalization, data security, and we being able to deliver a product that makes sense to the customer. Cut to 2021, when we have adopted digitalization, these factors are going to be a thing of past. Absolutely. We are no more talking about on-premise cloud or off-premise cloud. We are no more talking about whether we need to massage our data, how data-centric the organization needs to be or no. We are actually talking about all this needs to be done. And that, I would say, is a very big adoption, a very big green yes in all the organizations, be it finance, and the highest adoption has been seen in the banking industry. Because from loans to mortgages to the way you have been dealing with your money, everything has been completely adopted and digitized. And now it is about sustainability. So from sustainability point of view, I have spoken a little bit about the challenges and how corporates have been dealing with these challenges. The future will be defined by the entire organization, considering that customer experience is actually the sum of all customer perception today. And the perception of a customer is stemming from the fact that it is perceiving the organization from all touch points. That's what I think everybody said. So the touch points would mean those touch points are not digital. Those touch points are delivered by human beings. So the human beings behind those touch points will have to effectively align and break all those silos and come together. 2017, I was leading digital transformation for an analytics L&D platform. And that was a time when we had to struggle to remove Excel sheets from people's life. That was also a struggle. So to add on to what everybody said, the eminent panel, I think that building the growth mindset, building a mindset that is futuristic, understanding that customer experience will be derived by all touch points, and everybody from marketing, from human resources, from task force point of view, to your sales, from customer support point of view. It cannot be just, customer experience cannot be just given to one department as their responsibility. And that's where the sustainability will emerge. So from, I just have 4 points to give out from sustainability point of view. The first will be to understand how do we reinforce the digital mediums into our systems. That will make us understand what from business model point of view is working today in smaller units, because the digital transformation journey is all about not one fine day you wake up and you're digitally transformed. It doesn't, especially I belong to large organizations and I know how it happens. So you are, I actually keep calling it Samudra Manthan. In Hindu mythology, they say the churning period, right? This is the churning period. So we are removing offline and getting onto the online stuff. This will give us the opportunity to evaluate at different level, different kinds of business models. And whichever is giving us the maximum ROI, that's what Marshniel just mentioned about, will be able to go ahead on the path of scale up. So from here to the next point will be, how do you manage your task force? How do you manage your human capital? And how do you enable your human capital? Because nobody is going to enroll to MBAs again. So it is again the responsibilities of your HR departments to ensure that you're able to take your workforces ahead to tune in to the new ways of doing business. Back to you, Gunjan. Gunjan, I'm done.
Thanks, Poonam. Sorry, I think my screen froze for a split second. We have just about, I think, 8 minutes to go. Thank you, Poonam, for touching about the human aspect of the entire digital experience. Ronita, very quickly, would you like to add on to what Poonam said? And then, I'm going to jump to Vanita for something which is really top of mind for all of us these days. Ronita, over to you.
Yes, in exactly 30 seconds, I'll tell you. I do feel that as we go through this whole process of digitization, I love to think of striking the right balance between high tech and high touch. So tech is something that we are all focused on, and we will eventually exceed expectations and do a fabulous job of it. But we are all human beings. We crave connections. We crave those human interactions. How do we infuse high touch? That is, I think, going to be the trick, and that is going to be a winning proposition overall going into the future. Some brands are already doing that really well. If you go to Tata Click, Tata Indie Lux, if you decide to order some sweets or pastries, you can actually opt for a white glove service. So the delivery experience, the unboxing experience is really elevated. So you've had seamless convenience, but there is that peak and there is that lovely ending. So high tech and high touch, if we can balance that well, we have a winning solution. Sorry, that was more than 30 seconds, but I'm done.
It was perfect. No, very, very pertinent points, high tech versus high touch, just gliding right into the ROI point that we made. We are almost at the end of the event. It has been awesome talking to all of you. I'm going to call upon each of the speakers for just 30 seconds if you have any closing remarks for our audience, and then we will close the call. I'm going to start with you, Bhargavi. Anything you want us to walk away with?
I think there's one, sometimes the statements remain more than anything else. So bring engineer close to customer. That's first thing. There are various trainings that people have. Even if you don't have, just ask your product manager, can I sit next to you in the next call? I want to see how our product is being used. I think that'll open up phenomenal insights. Second is, the technology pervasiveness and the adoption of digital. I think there's no better testament to it than the fact that BNY Mellon has made a statement of a month back or so that we would be supporting digital assets. World's oldest bank saying that made a big difference to Bitcoin's price share for sure. But more importantly, it's accepted as a norm now that, everything that we are doing is moving towards digital. And I really liked the aspect around human beings and like we have to be very mindful. And I think Gunjan, you yourself started. People are going through a lot, so be mindful of your teams, take them along with you, be empathetic, and also of your customers, right? So it's a strange kind of transitioning from one world to another still happening. So just be mindful of your people and your customers.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Bhargavi. Vidya, you're on the spot.
Yeah, I would just say customer perception is reality. I would end with that.
Well said. Great. Marshniel. We can jump to Ronita. Or
I would say, every. Hello?
Yeah, hi, go ahead.
Right. So
yes,
I was saying that probably for everyone, I mean, whoever is trying to transform any business, whatever it is, listening to the customer needs and like really listen to the customer needs. And today in these times of COVID, when I say customer, it's not just the end customer, even our employees and the people that we work with. It is very, very important to be able to listen, and we focus on that. I think a lot of the things, that we want to do.
Sure.
We would be able to to experience.
Sure. Thanks, Marshniel. Ronita.
2 points. Customer obsession. I think it's a mindset that we need to embrace, and we need to have it no matter what the role is, no matter how senior or junior you are. Customer obsession. And the second point would be leverage brand to create differentiation in the minds of customers, in the minds of partners and stakeholders.
Great. Thank you, Ronita. Poonam, over to you.
2 perspectives. For people, think digital, because soon we will be talking to robots. It's there in future. We can see that. And for businesses, think like startups. If we can adopt that, we will be able to propel ahead faster. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Poonam. Well said. Well, I would like to conclude this panel. Thank you again to the eminent panelists. This has been a huge learning experience for me. To our audiences, thank you for your time. Stay indoors, stay safe, take care. Bye-bye.